An album a day is my exploration into the Korean music scene. This podcast will cover mainstream, indie, and some underground artists within the scene and provide both factual and opinionated commentary. The biggest benefit to sharing my thoughts this way is that it will hopefully expose you to more great music and exploration of your own. In the Hallyu wave, it's extremely common where we've got a group where the members are very young, and all of a sudden, once they get close to 30, especially boy bands, we start dreading the day that they go off into service and then come back and pretty much just keep our mind around the fact that there's an invisible expiration date on the whole pop scene. But that's not the case when it comes to this group. In fact, their leader is 42 years old here in the United States. So clearly pop doesn't have an age on it. And I'm excited to talk about this group. It was a little hard to find some information about them, but I think it's a reason for that. So let's go ahead and talk about those things and their first album after the drop.
You're tuned into an album a day. Show, start.
It's been a while. We had where to start? I guess, given the circumstance that I've been gone this long, this should be the first time that I officially say my usual YouTube intro on the show. I always use my bio, but I never do my official one, which isn't that fancy, but I feel like it's necessary to mark a new start. So hey, y'all. It's been a while. May 27th, 2020 was the last episode recorded for season 3. It was an ordinary day at that time. And then roughly 48 hours after that, a lot of things that impact me as a Black American and a Black woman occurred in the United States. And I wanted to take appropriate time to direct my attention towards that. That attention is not gone, but I have a duty to maintaining my show, and I appreciate all of you who understood what I felt I needed to do during those 3 weeks. Wow, stomach, really? That literally sounded like a fart. What a way to bring the pressure down from a possibly prickly moment. It's early in the morning for me. Which, y'all listen to the show at 8 a.m. anyway, for those who listen as soon as it drops. But I've been in a process of waking myself up earlier and earlier every week so that I have more time in my day and more productivity. And one of the aspects of that is being able to listen to the music that's going to be featured on each episode a little bit earlier, so my brain is completely empty. There's nothing on it except the fact of, dear God, why am I awake? But my mind is empty. I can process the sounds. I can process the language and what's being said with a little bit more gusto, if you will. I'm not a morning person. I absolutely hate this. But given the circumstance that podcasting is going to be a greater space than just creating the videos that have my face featured on it on YouTube, especially now that we've hit this massive Patreon goal that I had that allows me to be able to create more content for the Great Moments YouTube channel, which this podcast is associated with. The shift is beginning. It's very exciting. So I have to be awake. I gotta go to bed earlier like I'm a little kid so that I can get up and do what needs to be done. Last time we spoke as well, I wasn't in grad school. I'm in grad school, you guys. Now, I apparently hate myself. What a time to just pick to go back and give higher education my money when, it's the freaking apocalypse. It's wonderful. So those are all the updates on me. I so desperately hope that you're doing okay or more than okay. You as an audience are always in my thoughts. Okay, Ocean. Now, this is the first group we've come across that has like a number involved where it just flat out makes sense. It's romanized as the number 5 and then the letters Tion. But in the Korean language, 5 can be pronounced as O. So Ocean, this was like logical for me. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Ocean is the name of this South Korean boy band. They were popular during the early 2000s, but I feel like that's a limitation to say they were popular during. They're still popular. They're just not popular in Korea anymore. So they were popular during the early 2000s in the country, South Korea. Now they are extremely active in Japan. They recently came out with an album last year. But of course, with this being an album a day and we're focusing on me looking at Korean music, we're gonna kind of cut off early for them. We will be with them 2001, 2002, 2006, and then 2012. So I don't want you under the impression that the gentlemen aren't active. They still are. Very much so. And I found them refreshing while I was listening to them today. So this was a group I had some difficulty finding information about, simply because it's like a hard stop on the Korean information. It's a lot of labels that they've been associated with and a lot of members they've been associated with. In fact, they have a history of members coming and going or being in other groups altogether. So they are pop. Don't get me wrong. They're pop. They tried their hands for a moment at the ballad thing, but they're a pop group. And with the first album that we're listening to, which is Incredible True Image of New, they came out the gate with 14 doggone tracks. I don't know who made that plan December 27, 2001 to be like, yeah, you guys are a rookie group, but let's just give a lot. I was overwhelmed by the fact that we had a full-fledged studio album as a debut. When I got into K-pop in 2012, what I was used to initially was the fact that there was like a couple of songs and I never associated it with the full album, dork. But that's because that's what I saw on YouTube. I saw the videos. I was like, man, this is so cool. And then you realize after the fact, there's an album associated with this. You should probably check it out. And it wasn't common to come across a debut that had so much music on it. Too much music after a while, really, because it kind of, not so much drones on. It's, let's think about our words. It doesn't go on for too long, but it would have been okay to be two separate albums. It honestly would have. It's very much early 2000s pop. And, you know, there's things that I can recall associated with NSYNC or 98 Degrees, Backstreet Boys, and whatnot. But this doesn't necessarily pull from that. I don't quite know how to articulate that in a better way to say that the production quality is similar, but it's not emulating those songs. There we go. You got it. You said it. All right, girl. You had to take a moment to think about it. It sounds distinctly Korean pop. And we're still in a space, we were doing that all the way back from 4 Minutes, still trying to figure out how to define what that sound is. And I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out in the process of all of this historical digging and whatnot. But this sounds like, oh, okay, it fits. It doesn't sound like they took a sound from somewhere else and tried to impose their own vibe on it. I wish I could say it more specifically than that. I really do. At least let me tell you not how many, but the names of these songs, and then I'm going to get into the members. And it's intentional that I'm not addressing them first because, like I said, I had some hard time finding some info on them. So the tracks of Incredible True Image of New are Feel, More Than Words, Now We, Always, Bye Bye, She's Gone, My Girl, With You, Say It, Happy, Maze, Good Night, Wall, and Without You. It's a lot. It's a lot of relationship going on up in them 14 tracks. It was released on Sonara Music and Ogam Entertainment. Can't find much about them either. I just can't. So what I did find, we're referencing from kprofiles.com. And what we have is currently an active member roster of 4. One of the members left, came back, and like I said earlier, this is something that happens a lot within this group, or has happened a lot in the group. So Roy, Sun Il Hwan, I'm sorry, Kwan. Sun Il Kwan or Sun Il Hwan? Give me just a moment. I want to. And that's the other thing. We'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, on K Profiles, we have Sun Il Hwan as the Hangul, but the English of it is Sun Il Kwan. Stage name is Roy. Roy is the leader and vocalist. His birthday is tomorrow. Technically, if you're hearing this on June 22nd, then in Korea it's already the 23rd. So he was born June 23rd, 1978. That's a grown leader. And Leader was a part of the group from its foundation in 2001 up until 2006. Took 6 years away, came back. I've never heard of a leader leaving and coming back. That's interesting. We also have a member named Noah. Birth name is Isung Hui. Yeah, it's Hui. I was about to say it incorrectly, like fish. And that's June 17th, 1983 is his birthday, so it just passed. We have Chris Lee, Korean American. He goes by the stage name Lin. October 13th, 1983 is his birthday. And then we have the Magne vocalist, Yang Hae Min, who goes by Marine. Now, they have Marine, but Marine is the English of it. December 11th, 1984. They're adults. They're super duper califragilistically adult. They're very much grown. And they're still making pop music. And in a sweeping, and not new, but sweeping trend of only seeing value in the pop scene in those who are young, this is extremely refreshing. Here in America, we've got our celebrities, and there seems to be a very solid divide in the pop scene where you get 15 seconds of magic in your late teens, early 20s, and then something chaotic happens, and then you fall off, and then you come back in your 30s, your early 30s for a moment, and then you kind of just trickle off. And that's not realistic. If you have this amazing talent of singing and performance and whatnot, it's not archaic to still make pop music and still create in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. I mean, we've got Janet Jackson, who is definitely a pop idol. Outside of United States, we have Kylie Minogue, and she is just, oh my gosh, she's so freaking dope. She's the other side of the globe's answer to what Madonna was at a moment in time here. So, you know, it doesn't have to stop. Beyonce will be 39 this year, and for some, that feels like, oh, wow, she's too old to be making the music she's making. And she just made Black Parade last week at the time of this recording. There's no limitation. So long as you're willing to still do the work of the artistry, there's no limitation. Britney Spears, same age as Beyonce. I'll ache for her to come back. So we really need to stop imposing those kind of limitations on our artists. And I really enjoy the fact that these gentlemen are like, okay, well, Korea might feel that way, but Japan is still receiving us, so we're gonna go there. There's a lot of past members. You have Taekyung, and I said that very incorrectly. Taekyung. I said Taekyung like I was talking about 2 p.m. My apologies. Chanmin, Sokho, Minsong, John, Hyun, Bosok, Uil or Woo-il, and Kang, which in Hangul looks like Khan, but I assume he was trying to make it like Kang, whatever. The thing is, the one thing I wanted to point out about the names, the names were changed so that they could appeal to an international fan base. And in my studies right now, what I'm learning, and I've experienced it vicariously, if you will, but the whole thing of changing the name to appeal to an audience that's too lazy to learn how to pronounce it. Yes, I know I'm saying some things incorrectly, but with correction, the appropriate emphasis on the Hangul will remove the necessity for changing the names to Anglicized way, if you will. Now, I do know that there's something called like second language ego, or it's a theory really, where once you start to like embrace the nuances of a language that you're acquiring, that it helps you to further embrace your learning. So for me, when I was learning Spanish, then I would utilize the Spanish name, and I didn't find it peculiar at the time, but I do find it peculiar now. But I would use the Spanish name, and I feel like that's stereotypical to say Spanish name, because what is a Spanish name? There's Christinas, there are Marias, there are Janets, there are Jonathans. You don't have to change that just to speak a different language. But in Korea, I do have a Korean name. Amongst Koreans and Korean Americans, I do have one. I did not create it. It was given to me. It's Jinju. There is a surname, but that's not necessary for this. What I'm trying to get to is I believe that the assumption that things are too exotic, things are too foreign for the masses to appeal to it, I believe that shifted quite a bit in the time that they've been on the scene. They've been around since 2001. That's a substantial amount of time. And at this point, there's no reason for them to change their names. But that's 19, perhaps 20, depending upon how you want to do the math. But literally 2001 from 2020 is 19. But whatever. That's 19 years of watching the scene not be as international as it is. And this is not to say that they were trying to appeal to the North American market or the European market. They, as I said, have been heavily active in Japan. There might be some necessities to change names there in their eyes. And we've seen it. Well, we will see it even more in the future. I particularly think about SM artists when it comes to some interesting name changes and things of that sort. So I hope that the habit of this doesn't continue. The most recent ones I can think of are Icon and Monster X. They made some adjustments to how they pronounce their names so that other audiences could appeal to it. But I think we need to find another peace of mind of being able to pronounce people's names as they are. I don't know. That's just me. You know, it might be more cumbersome as an entertainer than it needs to be. But back to the music. I've said what I wanted to say about that. Back to the music. It was refreshing. I've said that once before. The album could have been 2. Perhaps it really was at one point, because the title is Incredible / True Image of New. So it really might have been, but when I'm looking at their website in Japan, that bad boy straight up say 2001 December album True Image of New, 14 dang on tracks. So nah, it was never it was never 2. And then they got this amazing name called Ocean, and their fan club don't have nothing to do with Ocean. Their fan club's name is Orion. So, I mean, I guess it works. You got the constellation and the ocean, and like, if somewhere in there was a moon, then maybe scientifically they pull on each other. I don't know. I'm reaching. Let's go ahead and just get to the ranking. You just pulling whatever you can pull, you hot mess. Let's go ahead and get to the ranking, and I apologize in advance that you won't be able to hear these songs on the hashtag A3 Days Spotify playlist because the album isn't on there. You're gonna have to look for it on YouTube and or other platforms. So let me just put that out there now, okay? Come on, morning voice. Not sick, just hate talking. K-pop fans on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being essential listening and 1 not worth mentioning. The A3 rating on this is a 4. It's not distinctly memorable, but it's pleasing, and I don't see any harm in checking it out. So tomorrow, aka next episode, because I could say tomorrow today and then everything go to hell in a handbasket. Tomorrow we're looking at an album that has a whopping 12 tracks. The song that I enjoyed the most on here so far is, which one? She's Gone, but that's because it's got some English rap in it. out of nowhere, we done made it that many tracks, and now you was like, let's go ahead and drop a couple of lines of rap, and it was okay. It wasn't bad. So yeah, that seems to be my favorite of the 14. Oh boy. All right, everyone. I will catch you in the next episode. Bye, y'all.
Your favorite foreign Korean music historian exploring all the industry from A to Z.
There's sponsored ads and social media hashtags, but this show is truly supported by the efforts of my McWallas, the most amazing fan base a little entertainer could ever have. Special shout out to my Patreon patrons, the student body, and the scholars who keep my vision of becoming your favorite Korean music historian exploring all the industry from A to Z a real thing. If you're interested in supporting the growth of this podcast and supporting content, please visit patreon.com/multifacetedacg. And for as little as $1 a month, you can get in on the magic too. Interested in continuing your support at the free $99 price? I love you for it. You can still engage with the show when you retweet, repost, and share the show and use hashtag A3 and the word DAY. You can also tag MULTIFACETEDACG to get my attention. And if you're listening to this podcast on a platform other than Anchor.fm, please leave a few stars or a review to keep things growing in the right direction.